Life on Earth would be impossible without plants and trees. From the air we breathe to the food we eat, we need them. And they have more benefits than we realize. That's one of the themes today on EcoAfrica. Welcome to the show. I'm Malama Mukonde in Lusaka, Zambia. And joining me from Lagos, Nigeria is my wonderful colleague, Chris Elem.
Hello from me too. Great to have you with us. Here's a look at what's coming up. A beautiful but invasive species transformed into a natural substitute for plastic. How the secrets of an age-old vegetable could improve food security. And harnessing the sun's power, what's the best solar system for the African heat? We're about to meet two people in Uganda who are on a mission to transform city homes into greener, healthier spaces and show that nature holds solutions to many of the daily problems we face.
That up is darker.
For Maureen Atugonza and Paul Orishaba, Entebbe National Botanical Gardens is a prime resource.
Because now you see like how you're able to identify stone break.
Featuring tropical forest and 500 indigenous and exotic plant species. It is Uganda's oldest botanical research facility.
So you're interested in finding which plant is suited for what place. So it is also important to identify or observe which plant attracts which insect or which pest.
The ethnobotanist and the nutritionist work together to offer people advice on what plants will thrive in the prevailing climate conditions and about the health and nutritional benefits of certain plants, as well as their role in improving air quality. Today, they are visiting communications consultant Maureen Agena in Impoma, 40 kilometers east of Kampala. Her garden includes eucalyptus trees, palms and cacti.
If someone tried to jump over here and stepped on any of the thorns, it's like poison.
And the lemon scent of the eucalyptus trees keeps mosquitoes at bay. The house is cool thanks to shade from the many trees. Maureen Agena wants to learn which herbs and plants have health-boosting properties.
I brought you chocolate mint, thyme, and the oregano are both amazing antimicrobial. So that is antibacterial, antifungal.
The nutritionist knows a lot about medicinal plants. On her own farm in Rukwanga, just north of Kampala, she cultivates, for example, the vitamin-rich life plant, which helps wounds heal faster. Chamomile too is under-demanding and a useful home remedy. And yarrow, she says, is a great herb for women.
That week before your period, this is the best herb for you because it deals with the bloating, which we face in that week. It handles the headaches, which we also experience in that week. It's amazing for menstrual cramps, and it doesn't stop on menstrual cramps. It also deals if you have heavy menstrual bleeding.
Kampala's Makerere University houses another great resource. Its herbarium is full to the brim with information about plants and their properties. Thousands of species have been archived here over the last century. Many are now rare, particularly in cities. That's a development that needs addressing. Because trees, say experts, are the answer when it comes to solving some key issues.
The air around Kampala is said to be bad air. But if we had more trees, then they will help us to clean that air. So we are having a challenge that we are removing trees and other plants and instead putting their concrete buildings, which also increase the heat in our environment, because when the sun hits them, then it reflects and doesn't absorb that heat.
In response, various initiatives in Kampala have set up urban gardens on roofs and in backyards. As well as keeping out the heat, these encourage people to grow their own herbs and, importantly, their own vegetables. But the capital needs far more of them. Green spots are few and far between. There's more on the outskirts, and it's essential to preserve it, says Maureen Agena. She continually learns new things about her plants and was delighted about one recent discovery.
That when the moment you take the root, I had a tag, how they call it, skin tag, those dark dots that swell. And I read that this pencil plant could remove them. So I would break and then use this sap. I would just place it on this spot, morning, evening. After 3 days,
It was
the
good.
tag fell off.
It just fell off like that.
Oh, you don't know how. I could throw a party.
Ethnobotanist Paul believes that such moments of wonder can also encourage city dwellers to appreciate nature again.
That is your pharmacy. A pharmacy in the kitchen, a pharmacy in the backyard. So it is food, it is for defense, then it is cooling the environment, it is making it beautiful.
The team is convinced that by helping people to get to know plants better, the more they will appreciate and protect them.
When we don't work with nature, it causes problems. Introducing a plant to an environment where it is not native can turn it into an invasive species. Our next report looks at a plant that's a problem in many water bodies around the world. A startup in Kenya has found a solution with multiple benefits. Now here's this week of Doing Your Bit.
Water hyacinths as far as the eye can see. The pretty flowers are among the most invasive plants on Earth. This infestation is on Lake Naivasha, one of the biggest lakes in Kenya. The area is known for its many flower farms. They use fertilizers in their farming, some of which end up in the lake through runoff. This makes the water hyacinths grow even faster. Satellite images show the invasive species as green areas on the lake. Most of the banks are overgrown, so fishing boats often get stuck in them. Something climate tech engineer Joseph Kithiru never wants to experience again. Having got stranded on the lake himself once, he now hopes to tackle 2 environmental challenges at once.
What we're trying to look at is how do we use one problem, which is water hyacinth, to solve the other problem, which is plastic waste pollution. And now how we do this is that we work together with these fishermen who are affected at the lakeside.
That's good news for fisherman Simon Macharia. His catch has been dwindling for years. The water hyacinths absorb the oxygen and block the light, so the fish no longer come here to spawn. Since the water hyacinths started growing in Lake Naivasha, we tried to get a solution from the government, but in vain. Then we found out about Hire Park. We harvest water hyacinth, dry it, and sell it to them. We do business with them, and they pay us. 50 fishers are now involved. They deliver the dried plants to Hire Park, where they are first shredded and then mixed with eco-friendly additives. The liquid mass is poured into trays and left to dry. They process 150 kilos of hyacinths a week. The end product is designed for applications that would normally require plastic.
One of those places in agriculture where we have a lot of seedling bags being packaged in plastic bags, and we have our biodegradable bags that are inserted with the seedlings into the ground. As they decompose, they release nutrients that accelerate the growth rate of the plants, as well as you reduce the amount of water you use in irrigation.
So far, they've harvested 20 hectares of hyacinths. The invasive plant now has a second life that instead nourishes the soil and other plants.
What a great idea there. Plants are, of course, above all, a source of food. As weather patterns change around the world, we need more varieties of staple foods that can cope with extreme conditions. We cross now to Europe, where one researcher is studying an age-old crop to learn the secret of its amazing resilience.
Golden, earthy, rustic. Potatoes are a staple in most cuisines. They're the 3rd most eaten crop on Earth after rice and wheat. In Africa, they're especially popular in the north, in Rwanda and in South Africa. In the Danish capital Copenhagen, biologist Nathalie Canales browses the market stalls. A single type dominates the selection here, the common potato. The researcher won't find her own personal favourite here, the bitter potato, also known as chunyo. She had these shipped over from her home country of Peru, where they're traditionally freeze-dried to get rid of the bitter taste. The method takes time, which might be why the crop isn't common outside Peru. At least, not yet it isn't. Natalie Canales is a researcher at the University of Copenhagen, where she's studying the sturdy bitter potato in the lab.
What bitter potatoes can do that the common potato can't is that they are frost and drought resilient. This means that they can survive extreme environments.
Such as high up in the South American Andes in Peru, where they evolved. 4,000 metres above sea level, the conditions here can be harsh. At night, temperatures can plummet to -4 degrees Celsius. Water is scarce, and climate change makes these conditions even more extreme. Natalie Canales wants to know why they're so resilient. Here, in her lab, she tries to decipher the plant's genetic code by extracting DNA from a dried leaf. With this knowledge, she wants to help farmers find potato varieties that can best withstand different extreme conditions. In Kikuyu in Kenya, researchers want to identify resilient crops and seeds too, and bring back old varieties. One reason why old breeds are disappearing is Kenya's law that forbids seed sharing among farmers, a practice that used to be common and helped plants become more resilient by selection. Many farmers are now forced to buy commercial seed from big companies.
Some of the traditional varieties that we had abandoned then are actually more resilient with climate change. So when you introduce them, especially in marginal areas, those varieties outperform the improved varieties, and therefore farmers find them very useful.
This farmer, who runs an indigenous seed bank, is one of a dozen who have challenged the seed-sharing ban. He continues to exchange and collect seeds from local smallholders. This traditional method helps preserve and revive old breeds, protect biodiversity, and make crops more resilient to changing conditions. Farmers and scientists around the world keep trying to unlock the secrets of plant resilience. Some large corporations would be eager to commercialise such findings. That worries Natalie, who, she asks, should really be able to profit from nature.
I realized how key this crop was for Andean families, and it's more than their livelihoods or a food or a crop. It's a lifestyle, is the connection with cosmos, with nature, with ourselves, spiritually too. The whole year, their whole calendar year is around these crops. They are the holders of the knowledge. It's a knowledge that has built for thousands of years.
That's why Natalie wants to share everything she learns about the plant's DNA with the farmers first.
By releasing this kind of information to the communities specifically, and make them the owners of this information, as I hope to do with my research, they can decide what to do with it. Because after all, they are the holders of this knowledge and biodiversity.
And in Kenya, awareness is growing among scientists and farmers about the value of traditional know-how.
It would be wrong for farmers, especially farmers in marginal areas, to start thinking that using the indigenous seed is backwardness. Far from it. Because some of the indigenous varieties have adopted over time to the local conditions, and therefore they are more resilient.
Given the worrying developments in human-induced climate change, Desterio Nyamongo's and Natalie Canales' work has become increasingly important. By combining traditional knowledge with science, they aim to ensure food security for future generations.
The main driver behind the increase in drought and extreme temperatures is the burning of fossil fuels. Transport, for example. Now, across Africa, cars and trucks are responsible for 1/3 of these carbon emissions. It's similar in Europe. There, efforts are underway to recycle a widely used plant product to cut the use of diesel and gasoline.
Crude oil. It still plays a major role in how we get around. Most vehicles and aircraft are still powered by fossil fuels, but combustion engines can also run off alternative sources. Biofuels like rapeseed or palm oil produce fewer carbon emissions, but growing crops for biofuels uses up valuable farming land. Recycled cooking oil is a more sustainable option. In many countries, it's already being added to diesel and petrol. But more used oil could be recycled and used as fuel, as examples from Germany and Spain show. Larissa Hartl is taking part in a project run by the company Jeder Tropfen zählt, which translates as every drop counts. She lives with her family in southern Germany. All her used cooking oil now goes into this container. In the past, she didn't know what to do with it. Sometimes I'd keep it, thinking I'd use it for salad dressing, but often it just went off. Or I forgot about it, or just used to throw it out. The project was launched in 2018 in some areas of southern Germany. The containers can be brought to central collecting points, located outside supermarkets, for example. Every few months, Larissa Hartl drops off a full container at her local facility. The machine spits out a clean, empty tub in return. A local recycling company regularly picks up the used oil and refills the machines with empty containers. The firm Lesch got the idea for the dispensing machines from Spain. 56 towns and communities in southern Germany are already taking part in the pilot project. There are more than 615,000 people taking part in the project. They live in the areas with the collection system. 110 of these machines are already in operation and more are in the pipeline. It's of advantage to authorities too. If cooking oil is poured down the drain, it can clog sewers. Getting rid of fatbergs formed from solid waste and fat can be very costly. The district of Telmessing is already counting the benefit, according to its mayor. It mainly saves us labour costs. But of course, it's about much more than that. It's about recycling a resource that would otherwise have gone to waste. Now the old cooking oil can be recycled.
Und jetzt kann man ja eben dann das Altfett wieder in den Kreislauf bringen.
Telmessing-based company Lesch launched the company Every Drop Counts 6 years ago. The firm mainly collects used oil from restaurants and canteens too. Most is sold to biodiesel producers. Some 180 metric tons of used cooking oil from private households were collected in 2024 alone. That adds up to a lot of biodiesel. Transesterification turns 1 litre of used cooking oil into a litre of biodiesel, a 1-to-1 ratio. Everyone's heard of biodiesel. You can get it in diesel blends at the filling station, and those blends could include more biodiesel. In Spain, where a lot more used cooking oil is recycled, that's already the case. People can even take it to many filling stations and get fuel vouchers in return. The recycling system operates on a much bigger scale there. As well as conventional crude oil, the refinery in Cartagena on the Mediterranean coast processes the oil from private households and restaurants, as well as olive oil production leftovers. Over 200 million metric tons of cooking oil are produced globally each year. More than half goes to private households. Under 10% is recycled. But business analysts say that it's a market with growth potential, and more can still be done to tap private households. Crude oil companies like Repsol have recognized that potential. At its Cartagena plant, it's using cooking oil to produce biokerosene, or SAF, sustainable air fuel, as it's also known. The demand for SAF is set to rise in Europe. An EU regulation stipulates that the amount should increase from 2 to 6% by 2030. The German Aerospace Centre has tested the environmental impact of a complete switch over to SAF in the aviation sector. With our measurements, we could show that the use of sustainable air fuel cuts soot emissions. That reduces the amount of heat-trapping ice crystals in contrails, and that in turn reduces global warming. So sustainable fuels can play an important role, but we have to be careful. In EU states, up to 80% of biofuels are imported, mainly from China, Malaysia and Indonesia. Most biofuel there is produced from palm oil. Its production is a major driver of tropical deforestation. It also devours valuable arable land. Until we finally replace conventional combustion engines, biofuels can help to reduce carbon emissions, but only if we recycle local resources. Used cooking oil could be a driver of positive change.
Africa is often referred to as the world's sunniest continent, and it's true, solar power is a great choice here, but not all solar systems are equal, as we find out now in Ghana.
Scratches and cracks on a solar panel from extreme heat stress. Technician Emmanuel Razak is responsible for the photovoltaic system at a lodge in Tamale, northern Ghana. Here, the air temperature can rise above 40 degrees Celsius, and the solar panels often heat up to 70 degrees in the sun. The extreme heat eventually causes a significant drop in their performance.
When it was new, it was generating more power. But now that it has been cracked and then it has used for some time, the power is no more sufficient enough like first.
Ghana wants solar energy to make up 10% of its electricity supply by 2030, but heat stress can cut the panel's output by up to a quarter and cause them to fail earlier. Further south, in Ghana's second largest city, Kumasi, solar energy researchers are looking for a remedy at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Electrical engineer Saeed Abdul Ganiu is researching ways to combat the loss of performance caused by heat stress by using a newer type of solar panel that is still largely unknown in Africa. A photovoltaic thermal collector, or PVT collector, generates electricity like conventional solar panel, but at the same time it transfers excess heat into a system of water-filled tubes, thus cooling the module.
And this heat is passed onto the water, and the water can be collected from the other side. So as the water flows through it, it absorbs the heat from the panel, cooling the cells and giving it a better efficiency compared to the PV system.
Put simply, PVT system perform better for longer.
We use the simulation software to simulate the output of this over 25 years. And during that period, we realized that the degradation rate over the 25 years of the PVT was predicted to be around 12.3% as against 15% for the solar PV, which means that this is likely to degrade slower than the PV system.
It may not sound like a big difference, but it adds up over the expected 20-year lifetime of a solar model. In a hot climate like Ghana's, which is getting hotter every year due to climate change, the long-term effect can be striking. PVT collectors can cost about twice as much as a conventional solar panel, but they make better use of the sun's energy because they produce more electricity and hot water at the same time, making them suitable for places that need a lot of hot water, for example in industry, hospitals and hotels. Like this 82-room hotel in Tamale, which still gets its energy from the national grid. The hotel manager believes switching to PVT could significantly reduce energy cost.
If we take off hot water and all those stuff, our bills would have been considerably low. To quantify it, I would say at least 40% of our bills would have been down.
PVT collectors could offer a promising alternative that could help Ghana to meet its ambitious solar targets, especially as people become more aware of the particular problems of heat stress for solar panels.
If you have a comment or question on that story or anything else in the show, do write to us. We love hearing from you. Send a mail to eco@dwe.com. That's it for now. I am Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria.
And it's goodbye from me too. For more great ideas and stories, just search for EcoAfrica online. I'm Malama Mukonde in Lusaka, Zambia. See you next time.